All right. UFC 278 was a memorable night in Salt Lake City, and one of the folks in the arena heard on the broadcast throughout the night, especially the main event that everybody remembers, saw Leon Edwards knock out Kamaru Usman in the 5th round, a man who has somehow become part of the story, and we'll dive into it in a moment. Dean Thomas, kind enough to join us midweek, just days after UFC 278 went down, which I greatly appreciate. Dean, how are you, my man?
I'm good, man. I'm just basking in in the fact that I'm a part of a story that I really have nothing to do with. So, but you know what? Listen, it is what it is.
Yes, and we will definitely talk more about the analysis in a moment and let you give your side of everything. But just seeing it all unfold, because I spoke to a couple of people who were in the arena when the knockout happened, and they all told me, in essence, I've never seen or heard an arena like that ever. So, I mean, what was that like for you? Can you compare the reaction in the building to anything else you've been a part of?
I mean, the only thing maybe comparable would be maybe when Rose knocked out Weili Zhang, because that was so fast and like it was so unexpected. Um, but even this was different because there was a moment of silence in which you kind of had to process what had happened because no one expected it. Like you couldn't have written it better. It was so unexpected, so sudden, and just with the what was at stake, the fact that Usman, we've never even seen him hurt before. He may have gotten dazed a little bit, but we've never even seen him hurt before. So to watch him go out, you had to kind of wrap your mind around that for a second and be like, oh my God, did that just really happen? Yeah, it just happened. So yeah, it was pretty surreal.
So let's just get into it, Dean. First off, I just want to say, I think what you have done as part of these broadcasts has been phenomenal. Like bringing you in to give analysis about what the previous round looked like, going to you at different points throughout the fights. I think it's been a fantastic addition to all the different teams. So after the 4th round, you say something to the effect of, and I don't know if I have the exact words right, so correct me if I'm wrong. If it wasn't obvious enough, Leon is broken now. And the biggest thing that you can always know because of this is he doesn't give his coach eye contact in the corner. And when you don't give him eye contact, that means you're ashamed and he's embarrassed right now of his performance. Now, I just want to say on my behalf, I tweeted out right before they went to you on the broadcast, 39-37 Usman. Edwards looks extremely frustrated right now because the body language to me, even watching it on television, said a lot. And little did anybody know what was about to happen. But from what I've seen, you've gotten crushed after saying that because of how the fight ended. So can you sort of expound on what you said, why you said it, what you saw in that moment from Leon Edwards?
Listen, first off, hindsight is 2020, right? So it's easy to go back and go, oh, see, look, he's wrong. And we also live in a cancel culture where idiots are always looking to try to be smarter than everybody else. So obviously, oh, that didn't age well, blah, 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 blah. But in the moment, when he came back to his corner, all right, let's add some context to this. So he wins the first round. He has a first round against on Usman that no one has had against Usman. No one has ever had a dominating round like that against Usman. And what does Usman do? Usman smiles back to the corner and goes, okay, we got to fight here. Then Usman comes back and wins the next 2 rounds convincingly, easily. To me, first off, the fact that Leon Edwards had that first round and then gets beat the next 2, and it progressively gets worse. He's getting frustrated. He's getting like, oh man, I thought I was in this fight. I'm no longer in this fight. That's probably what's running through his mind. Now, I'm saying this based on me being in that situation before in terms of as a fighter, me being a coach for the last 25 years and dealing with fighters for 25 years. This is the type of mindset that they have. They start to break. Going into that last round, as soon as it was over, the first thing Leon did was put his arms up and his head down. Now, when you're proud, do you put your head down? No. When you're ashamed, you put your head down because you don't want to face what's in front of you. And then when he sits down and his coach says, stop feeling sorry for yourself. What's wrong with you? Those are signs. They know him better than I do. Those are signs that something is not going right with their fighter. I've been there before where my fighter won't look me in the eye because he feels like he let me down. That's the response that Usman gave his corner before that 5th round. Now his corner just said what they said, put him back in maybe a slightly better spot. But let's face it, he wasn't fully back in. He didn't jump up off that stool and go, all right, guys, I got this, and then rally back and then show signs of life. He plodded forward. He took one breath at a time, saw his opportunity. And Leon Edwards is a great fighter. He's got a better skill set than Kamaru Usman. I've always said that. He's a great fighter. He's capable of still winning fights as a dejected man. And that's exactly what he did. He went out there, not 100% confident in himself. He admitted to that he didn't have the performance that he wanted. He wasn't having the performance he wanted. He admitted to that. His corner told him, what's wrong with you? Stop feeling sorry for yourself. That is not signs of a confident man going into the last round thinking, oh, I'm going to win this fight. That's a sign of a man going, all right, I'm not done yet, but I don't know what I got. I'm just going to stick this out, see what I can do. And that's exactly what it is. He's still good enough. He's still capable of winning fights that way. And that's what he did.
You gave sort of your analysis of like the arena when the head kick lands. What is your personal reaction to it? Are you even thinking that your words could come back to haunt you in any way here? Or are you thinking, holy crap,
immediately, because that happens it happens all the time in the corner. Like when we're on the broadcast, it happens more often than you may know and sometimes it doesn't happen because I don't get to it in time. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I got something. And then like, I don't get to it. And then I go, oh, I'm glad I didn't say that because it didn't work out. Right. Because the fight game is so unpredictable. And it happens to us all the time. We're thinking, oh, well, maybe he should do this. And then he doesn't do that. And then something bad happens. But again, hindsight is 20/20. It's easy to look back and go, oh, well, of course. But no, it's not, of course, because for the exact reason why this was such a memorable moment. Why is it a memorable moment? Because everybody thought he was out. It's not a memorable moment because everybody thought he was in and thought he could do it. It's a memorable moment. It's the greatest moment, one of the greatest knockouts in history because no one thought he can do it. That's why it's great. It's not great because everyone was like, all right, guys, we know Leon just lost 3 rounds against the pound for pound best fighter in the world who's never been knocked out before, but he's capable of doing it. Watch this. Then it wouldn't be a great moment. It's a great moment because no one thought it would happen. But because it did happen, and because the so-called experts said that said that he was broken, everybody wants to come down and be like, oh, I'm smarter than you. I told you so.
It's just crazy because like most people were thinking the same thing. And it reminded me, yeah, and I even said on like our post-fight show, it reminded me of when Douglas Lima fought Yaroslav Amosov in Bellator, like between the rounds 4 and 5, because we were sitting media row, like right in Lima's corner. And when he got up and went back to his corner, I mean, I was just like, he's done. Like, he just so frustrated. He's telling his coaches, like, he's looking at his coaches essentially saying, I don't know what to do. I can't stop the takedowns. I have no idea how to come out of this. And it wasn't the same exact thing, but it sort of reminded me of that and how anybody could think that he didn't look somewhat dejected in that moment. I just don't get it. Like, I don't understand how it becomes, see, Dean, you're an idiot. I can't believe this, when it was so clear to everybody watching, like, this guy looks frustrated right now.
And that's the reason why and when I go back to my quote, it goes, obviously. And I began with obviously. I began with that intentionally because as an analyst, in my position, I don't think that my job is to tell you guys what's obvious, right? Because you can see it. You could see that he didn't look like he was in the fight. That was obvious, which is why I started with obviously he looks broken. Because he looked broken. And I thought that was the part that the whole world could see. From watching it, from where I'm watching it, everybody could see that part. So my only thing to elaborate on that was, here's why. Because when his coach is talking to him, he won't look at him in his eyes.
It's almost like when you're a little kid and you're getting yelled at by your parents and you're like, I'm sorry. Right? It's the same body language. And that's what I was essentially elaborating on, was the fact that here's why. And I've been there before with fighters when I'm telling them you got to do this, you got to do that, and they're mentally like, man, I'm letting you down. I don't know what to do, and they won't look at you in the eye because they're afraid to face the music. And that's the body language Leon Edwards was given. Now, what happened between him standing up on that stool and going, all right, I got one more shot left to do this. Maybe I can pull it off. Maybe I can't, but I'm going to try. That's what happened. Then all of a sudden, he becomes a hero. And I don't want to take anything away from Leon because he's, like I said, he's a great fighter. He's the champ for a reason. He got in that position by winning 9 fights in a row. He's a great fighter. But it wasn't looking good for him. And if Usman was standing 6 inches to the left and dipped his head, that kick wouldn't have hit with the same impact. It would have been a little bit different impact if he was standing over a little bit differently, or if his hand just happened to catch part of it. We'd be telling a different story about. You'd be calling me going, "How great is Usman? He beat up Leon Edwards for after having a round like that. He beat up Leon Edwards for 4 rounds." That's the conversation we'd be having today. But Leon Edwards throws a perfect kick, knocks out Usman, and now we're having a conversation on why I shouldn't have a job at the UFC.
So crazy, man. I do feel like John Anik might owe you a beer right now, because that 5-minute or so stretch between you coming on the broadcast and then the seconds before the actual kick lands and him, DC was like, just like Dean Thomas said, like, he looks broken. He looks dejected right now. Like, this could be a moral victory if he just gets, if he just goes the distance. And John Anik's like, well, Leon's not really cut from that cloth in regards to moral victories. And then boom, it was just iconic stuff right there. Like, your words to what he said, it actually made the moment bigger in my mind.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's kind of what it is. And I think that people, they attach themselves to these type of fantasies, right? So like they've created these narratives in their head and these fantasies as if it was like written and played out. And me, Joe, and DC were against Leon, and John Anik was for Leon. And we kind of created this whole fantasy world to make the story better, because the story is better that way. Oh, the commentators were against him. They were riding Kamaru Usman's nuts. I mean, that's the storyline. But John Anik was the only one for him. And then he comes out. I mean, that's, John called me and he's like, man, I just happened to say that at the right time. He called me and was like, yeah. And he said, eventually Leon's going to have to answer the question why he fought the way he did for those 3 rounds. Because that's kind of lost in the whole story. That gets the one thing that what the story should be about is how he came back, not the fact that we said that he was done and he wasn't, because no one ever asked him, yo, dude, what really were you thinking in between those rounds?
Oh yeah. It's wild. And even Leon said after the fight, like he just didn't feel right. You know what I mean? Because the altitude was there, and you could see that it affected certain fighters throughout the night. Like, did you feel it too? Like, even just being in Salt Lake City, did you notice like a shift in how your body felt because of the altitude?
No, I didn't. And sometimes I do. Like when I was in Denver, I did. But for whatever reason, I think that I'm just kind of so used to being on the road so much now that I'm always tired. I'm always tired. My skin's always dry. So like everything's always afflicted with me. So I don't even think I noticed it. But it was a factor for everybody. Like everybody in that fought that night had something to say about it. But you know what? This fight was announced for a long time. You know what I'm saying? So like, you can't complain about the altitude if you knew about it months in advance, because you could have did something about it.
Yeah, people were telling me, like other fighters and stuff, because I just asked randomly, like, how much will this affect it? And they're like, well, I mean, Salt Lake City's got altitude, but it's not like Denver. It's not like Mexico City. So like, it's not really going to affect it. And then it turned out that it actually did have a much more larger looming effect on some of these fights. But kind of going back to the main event, Leon obviously has options right now. And normally I'm not a fan of immediate rematches. Like there's certain ones that I was just like, why are we doing this again? But this one, to see these guys fight again, at least in my eyes. And of course, we got Khamzat fighting Nate Diaz in a couple of weeks. We got Chimaev, if he wins, that could be an option. If Nate wins, that's certainly an option if he resigns. Masvidal is obviously a big fight for Leon because of the story there. Leon is in a tremendous spot right now, but ultimately we have to run this thing back with Usman in London, right?
Yeah, I forget who said it that night, but we always talk about like moments to change fights. But there are some moments to change careers. And we've seen that with Masvidal. Masvidal had a long career. One knee against Ben Askren changed his life forever. And we've seen that with fighters. Even Nate Diaz beating Conor McGregor changed his life forever. This kick will have changed Leon's life forever, and it's putting him in a position where now he's the man. Like he's attached himself to a franchise, the Rocky franchise, which makes sense because his nickname is Rocky. So like it all really is very serendipitous to where it almost seems like it can't be real that his nickname is Rocky. Because I remember when he first told me his nickname was Rocky, this was years ago. And I'm thinking, why in the hell is his nickname Rocky? It doesn't make sense. But now it all makes sense, right? So again, like if I had said that, imagine if I had said that, in the broadcast prior to the fight, like, why is his nickname Rocky? And then this happens. And then they put the Rocky music, they'd be like, Dean Thomas is so stupid. He doesn't get it. But it makes perfect sense now why his nickname is Rocky. But and I'll say this too, is that his options are limitless. You got to run that back with Usman because of Usman's history as champ. He was pound for pound, going trying to break records, dominating the fight, and then get slept, so you got to run that back. I don't think you could do the Masvidal fight at all. A lot has to happen for the Masvidal fight to happen. Like Masvidal has to at least win one more in devastating fashion, which is going to be tough because of the competition that he has to face. Nate Diaz could get a shot, perhaps, if he beats Khamzat. But if Nate beats Khamzat, this is the last fight on his contract. Do you really think he's going to stick around for that when he could make like $20 million to box Jake Paul? There's no way. And him beating Khamzat is a stretch in itself. So like that's probably not going to happen. Khamzat could, ask for a title shot, but you can't do that before Kamaru. So Kamaru is he's in the rightful spot to get the title shot against, and the immediate rematch. But even after that, Leon, he could stay busy.
Yeah, I'm so intrigued by the third meeting between these two guys just because of how it ended and the confidence that Leon has and everything about it, the way Usman's handled himself in the loss, which is just incredible. I just think all things considered, we got to do this again. It was so like Usman's getting like, you're getting some flack too, but now we're seeing memes of Usman and all this stuff. Like it's so silly, man.
Man, I went on obviously, like I'm not like everybody else. Like I don't read social media, but I start to sometimes. Right? So like and immediately I started initially I start to read it, and then when I realize it's bad, and I stop. But as I'm reading it, I'm like, man, this sucks. Like, really? This how they think? And then I went on Usman's page and I started reading his comments. And immediately I felt better about myself. Tough to say. But you see how Usman handled his loss. Like he handled the loss like a champ. And people are still dogging him, dissing him, and making memes about him, saying this, that, and the third about him. And it's like it makes you lose faith in humanity. It makes you hate people. But then I don't read the comments no more. But I just know that if Usman can handle like that, then surely I can.
Yeah. I think my biggest takeaway in all of this is that Demetrius Johnson just didn't get enough credit for his run, because like 12 straight title defenses. I just don't think that number is going to be touched. Maybe Valentina can get there, but we even saw her struggle a little bit in her last fight with Tyler Santos. But I just don't know if I feel like where Demetrius Johnson sits right now, at least for male fighters, I think Valentina's got a chance, but even then, that's still 6 more title defenses to break that record for her. I feel like this is the DiMaggio 56 game hitting streak. I feel like this is Ted Williams hitting 400 in 1941. I just don't think that record's going to be broken in today, like in modern MMA. I just feel like Demetrius doesn't get enough credit. That was an incredible run.
It was an incredible run, and he's not going to get enough credit because of the weight class. And it's unfair. It's an unfair comparison. We're going to say, oh, he didn't have competition. He didn't have no one to challenge him. But at the end of the day, that's all perspective. It's all perspective of what we thought of the division, because we thought the division was weak because they were small. But let's go back to 2005. They thought the lightweight division sucked. They got rid of the lightweight division. Now it's the best division in the UFC, the lightweight division, because of perspective. It's all perspective of fan perspective and what we think of the division. So at the time when Demetrius was doing this, wasn't nothing wrong with the competition. It's just that we thought the division sucked because they were 125 pounds. Because we used to go, oh, who wants to watch these little guys fight? No one wants to watch these little guys fight. But that was the same thing they said in 2005 at the lightweight division. No one wants to watch these little guys fight. We want to watch heavyweights. Until there became a star. Conor McGregor became a star, made the lightweight division popular. Now with the flyweights, Brandon Moreno's becoming a star, making it more popular. And now there's some, guys that are more popular that are making it a division that people care about. But at the time when Demetrius Johnson did it, there's just no stars. So it made the division look weak. But the competition was the same, and relatively, in relative standards, was the same. And he still had 12 title defenses. And he's going to be underappreciated for that, and it's messed up.
Completely agree. I do want to touch on Luke Rockhold retiring, because that was an absolutely insane fight with Paulo Costa. I'm just curious, what was it like being in the arena for that one? Because, I mean, those two guys just getting after it, heart for days, is amazing.
Oh, that was a lot of fun. I didn't even want to interrupt that fight. That was so much fun to watch. I was really, I was like skill for skill. Like, you obviously couldn't have been impressed with either guy, and in fact, like I was actually a little disappointed in Paulo Costa. I was kind of like, I thought he was better. And like he's taking Luke down. I mean, while he was taking him down, I was just kind of like, I thought you were better. I thought you were better with your hands, So he wasn't as good as I thought he was going to be as a fighter. But I was actually, on the flip side, I was actually proud of Luke for the way Luke fought. Looked like crap, skill-wise, but he fought with such heart, and he fought with such determination to prove to himself that he was a fighter. Because I think that's what he was lacking these last couple of years, is that, at one point he was the best fighter on the planet. I thought, like, he was a great fighter. Like, he really was the best 185-pounder in the world, maybe next to Anderson,
Yeah.
But so I can't take that away from Anderson. So Luke was probably the second best in the world at one time. And but then when he went on that string of losses, he looked bad. And he was partying and he was losing and became a pretty boy. And I think he lost sense of the fact that he was a fighter. So I think he went out there in this fight not to win, but to prove to himself that he was a fighter. And he successfully did that, because he proved to the world that he could go out there and take a beating and keep fighting hard. And that, to me, that was a beautiful thing to watch. And I love the fact that he went out like that. If you want to go out on a loss, that's the way you do it.
Yeah. Best possible way outside of just getting a win. True or false? We saw his last fight in the UFC. Do you think he gets the hits? No itch for Luke. You think he's done?
I think he's done. I think he took way too much time off, and then to come back to that and have that performance, and I think he's going to be content with that and go, you know what? I ain't going to be able to top that, so I'm done.
Last thing, you mentioned this man's name, so I might as well bring it up here, because he was certainly active on fight night and pretty much all day and all night Saturday. Jake Paul ripping Costa and Rockhold, ripping Usman after the knockout, just tweet after tweet after tweet, just throwing it at these guys. What do you think when you see that stuff from him, especially since he's supposed to be the advocate for fighter pay and fighters' rights, and I want to change the UFC and let's start a union and all this stuff, and then he just rips on these guys all night long.
It's very contradictory, right? It's very like I'm like, whose side are you actually on? Because he's in a position to like he's perhaps the most popular fighter around. Him and Conor are like the most popular fighters, and he's done a lot for combat sports. You can't take that away from him. He's done a lot for combat sports, for women, men, boxing, all that. Brought a lot of attention to combat sports. Brings a lot of attention to fighters, but for a lot of times for the wrong reasons. It's like on one hand, you trying to get everybody paid and you're doing the right thing, paying you cancel your show, but you still pay your fighters half the money. That's a good thing. A lot of promoters wouldn't have done that. But he did, I guess, maybe to save face, and he's got the money. So, but the reality is that in terms of standing up for fighters, he's not standing up for fighters. Like he says he is, but when you go on there and you rip a guy like Usman, and then you ripping, legends like Luke Rockhold, like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you just came out. You're 24 years old. Man, I've been fighting longer than he's been alive, and yet he's dogging people. He's dogging fighters. It's like, if you want to help, and that's what I said too. And I wrote a tweet a little while ago. Like, if you really want to help, and you think fighter pay is bad, continue to run your shows and continue to pay fighters more. Because believe me when I tell you this, in the grand scheme of things, in the world of MMA, not the world of UFC, in the world of MMA, UFC fighters are fine. They are doing just fine. And they are happy. Most of them are happy. Maybe a couple of them aren't, but most of them are happy. Most of them are lucky, and most of them are blessed to be in the position they're in. Because when you're not in the UFC and you're still putting your body on the line and you're still training like you're fighting for the UFC and your health is still on the same line and the risk is still the same, and you're in these other organizations and you ain't making no money, that's who Jake Paul needs to help. Not UFC guys. Don't dog UFC guys and say they need help. UFC guys, I see them at the PI getting free food, free medical care, you know what I'm saying? Free resources. They get taken care of. It's these guys in these other shows that really making $1,000 a fight. You know what I'm saying? And it's still getting beat up for a couple $100. So those are the ones that Jake Paul needs to take care of. Don't worry about UFC guys. Don't dog them or worry about them. Worry about the guys in the regional scene or in these other shows that ain't making no money.
Very interesting take on that situation, and I do agree with you in that sense with the regional guys and some of these. Maybe he starts his own regional promotion like that, and then you could pay him whatever the hell you want. You could do your own thing.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was just talking to Kevin Lee yesterday. Kevin Lee's with Eagle now, and he's like, yeah, man, it's tough because you don't realize how good the UFC is until you're gone. Like, now he's not with him. He's with Eagle, and they pay him pretty good. They probably pay him pretty good, probably comparative to the UFC. But he don't fight as often. He don't have as many guys to fight. He can't fight when he wants. He can't go to the PI and have them work on his leg and, you know what I'm saying, and get the dietary, advice and all that stuff. He can't do that stuff now. But when he was with the UFC, he could go right out to Vegas, be right and have all the resources to become a better fighter and then make the big money that you want. They give you the resources and the opportunity to be a better fighter and get everything you want. They're not just going to hand you checks, but they're going to give you the resources to where you can earn them. And these other organizations don't do that.
Dean, you are the man. You gave me probably 10 more minutes than I said I would need you for, but we just went after this thing, man. And it was great getting your insight on everything. Yeah, you're the man. So thank you very much. When are we going to see you back on my TV screen?
Let's see. Well, I'm working this weekend at the CFFC in Philly. That's where I'm headed now, actually.
Oh, nice.
I'll be coming. So that's on Fight Pass. So I'm working both events. It's a fight, MMA fight on Friday, and Saturday nights, the grappling matches. We'll see Clay Guida go against Alex Caceres. Also, Andre Petrovsky and Eric Anders are going to be grappling. So those big matches. They'll be on Fight Pass this weekend. Then after that, I'll be at the Nate Diaz Hamzat Chimaev fight.
Let's go. No Paris for you. You get to stay home for that one.
Yeah, no Paris for me. I'm not in the budget. And then, clearly the UFC was listening to the fans and they don't think I'm worth it. So like, I'm kidding, Mike. I'm kidding. No, but no Paris for me. I'm not traveling internationally for a while, so I'm kind of happy about that. So I'm good.
There you go. Well, after these events this weekend, try to rest up because I have a feeling that UFC 279 fight week's going to be bananas. So enjoy it. I thought you did a great job on the broadcast. Don't listen to anybody else. I thought you were great. I think you're fantastic on all the broadcasts, and thank you for the time as always.
I appreciate it, man. You have a good one.